Hey everybody, welcome to Tavern Talks. Sorry, my stream deck decided to act up for a second and muted me for near moments. Um, Once again, for episode 140, we are back with a new guest each and every week. Tonight, our guest is somebody's heroes, as he calls himself, madman, who is creating a wide grouped version of Dungeons and Dragons that he's telling the story with multiple DMs, and I can't wait to find out any more about what he's working on and things like that. Before we do that, though, quick shout outs to our sponsors for this year. Monument Studios. If you can hear the music in the back, give us a little shout out in the chat room. They offered us over 5,000 professional audio sounds. If you're looking for your next set of dice, walk over to Canadian Dice and get 15% off with Misfit 15. And of course, merchandise. Everybody loves merch. We've got both Beaker Builds and Tabletop Misfits merchandise over there at dungeongrandmaster.com. All right, awesome. Real quick, before we start, kind of give us a breakdown of what it is that's going on over there at Somebody's Heroes, not
Nobody's Heroes.
Somebody's
That
Heroes.
is the first time I've heard it. That is.
I looked at it, I looked straight at the screen, and I said something completely different.
Freudian slip, right?
What's that?
Freudian slip.
Yeah, Freudian slip. That's right.
Hey everybody, I'm Eric over here at Somebody's Heroes. We are a multi-party, multi-perspective, multimedia D&D podcast show.
We're gonna have to break all that down here in a minute.
I have to every time I say it that way because that's so many multis, right? So the multimedia, we have 3 groups that rotate every week for our audio only podcast that you can find over on Spotify, and should be, fingers crossed, everywhere. If it's not, hit me up and let me know. But that releases every Tuesday, right around noon Eastern. And like I said, we've got 3 groups, so there's part of multi-party. But then the other part of multimedia is every so often we actually do pre-recorded drops or live streams over on Twitch with other groups that are not any of the main cast. And everything is multi-perspective because every one of these stories is canon. Every one of these is canon within the world.
Nice. So it's a lot of notes after every episode.
No notes.
Bullshit.
No
Absolute.
bullshit. No bullshit. The only notes I take are a few date things over here on my whiteboard, and that's about it.
Better man than I.
Yep, same.
I'm also the one doing all the editing. So by re-listening, it re-ingrains into. And if it doesn't match what I've said before, I can erase and delete and do whatever I gotta do.
Oh, that's why you say everything is canon, because even if you mess up, it's still canon.
Yeah, because he deletes it and gets rid of it. Why does that sound like it kind of gets choppy there?
I actually don't do a whole lot of heavy editing. The most I usually edit is like off-topic tangents where people start talking about real life, and I'm like, nope.
Yeah, no, I can completely understand that. Yeah, we keep it at the table here as well, so we're not going to go through anything crazy with politics and religion, all that fun stuff, unless it's tabletop version. Then
some of it's accidental doxing.
Okay.
Where it's not that they're saying exactly where they live, but if you know well enough, you can guess.
Okay.
And I'm not gonna risk that. Or they're saying something about their sisters or other relatives, and I'm like, nope. Private stays private.
Yeah, no. That's why we have. Well, some people have actual nicknames on stream, and then there's just
correct.
Names. But
correct.
There's 1,000 Jameses in this world, so you ain't gonna find. I mean, it ain't gonna be that easy to find me.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's a bunch of Erics too.
Yeah.
So no, I fully get that. right now, actually, just yesterday, we dropped a pre-recorded drop for a backstory of one of the main cast, because they've been alive for 1,800 years. And
you got some story. You got some time. You can tell at least.
she's got, yeah, right. So, we told the story about, we were telling the story about her first adventuring party that she went on back in 226. The current year in the campaign is 2025. I did that so nobody can mess up the year in our games, because it's this
year.
now.
It's now. Makes it easier, right?
Yes,
Makes it
remembering
less
this
complicated.
Makes it easier to remember. Plus, when I originally did my scheduling and my drops, it was awesome because I had a date in. They started the game in game time was November 8th, and they are going until the winter solstice, which is like the 20th of December. By the time I did all the math and figured out all my drops, my end date, where the finale was going to be, was the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22 of December 2025. And I had it all paced out beautifully. And then one of my groups gave me too much content. Consistently too much content. So I'm like, I now have to readjust my entire flow.
Oh, yeah.
Which is fine. It doesn't bother me, but that cool little bit is now just stuck in my head as an original fun little Easter egg that was going to be there. And it's like, oh, well. But yeah, so I've got that group. They're doing every other Tuesday. So their next one is going to be, I think, the 11th. What? Really?
Did they go this week or last week?
It was yesterday.
Okay, so
which
yes,
should
it would be the 11th.
Yeah, the 11th, and then the 25th and all that kind of stuff. If you guys follow me over on follow us over on Twitch, you guys can see the calendar. It's all in there.
Sounds good.
And then on Saturday, I actually have a live stream of Goblins in Space. The Goblins of Mixlara. It was an Oops All Goblins idea someone had over on Threads, and I said, hang on, let me figure out how to make that canon. So I figured out how to make that canon, and I contacted the two people, who Juicy and Maz, who said something about it on Threads a month or so prior. They were like, wait, I said what? And I'm like, it's all right, I got you. I remembered. I made it canon. If you want to play, come on. And they're like, let's go.
Right.
So now we've got a full table of them. They'll be showing up. Their first one is going to be Saturday. Saturday night, 8:30 Eastern. So, and that'll be every other week as well.
Awesome. So you've got a Saturday every other week, you've got a Tuesday every other week, and you have your podcast going on
every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday.
There's a lot of content right this second. It was a good time to do this. But yeah, and I've got still another 8 or 9 more left to plan, record, or go live and drop.
Nice.
And that's all before we start doing the finale, which now is pushed out till around this time next year.
Okay. Nice. Wow.
It's going to be so thick because our finale is everyone who has played is welcome and invited to come back for the finale. So we're gonna do more like scene work, and I'll weave the scenes together in such a way to create episodes.
Nice.
On a live stream format, so that we can showcase that way.
Yeah, so I'm guessing for the finale, it's gonna be more of a pre-record and then drop it
Yes,
live.
Pre-record, assemble, and drop.
Oh no, do it live.
Yeah, 30 some people live, just swap it and keep moving.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm good.
Yeah, do it live. Okay,
A, don't threaten me with a good time. B, I can actually see how that would work with the right tools and implementation, but it's tricky as hell. And I can see how that would be trouble, as much trouble as it would be worth.
Oh, right. It'd be hell on your computer and hell on the stream.
Yeah, not to mention you'd have to have probably 2 full screens just to have zoom up so that you could properly have them big enough so that they would size properly on.
And I'd have to have someone actually manage the stream that's not me
Mhm.
while I'm busy DMing.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
That way they can
A lot
preset
of
it up.
logistics behind that. Oh yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
the logistics is insane.
Yeah, logistics alone would be worth it to not do that.
Correct. Could I do it? Yes. Would I? No.
Right.
Because
Yeah,
it's not a
and-
good idea.
Yeah,
No.
it's not. Yeah, it's going to be. Not only is it not. I mean, the functionality of it is just going to be very difficult, and it's going to take away from what you're trying to do, which is tell an amazing story. And
Correct.
as the game master, it's one of those things where it's really hard for you even to have a tech person who's able to do things in that perspective, because you're like, I need these 6 players shift now. Like, how do you do that without
Well,
like?
I actually have some experience with that, and what I would do is I would have 2 people over there working on my who's coming up next,
Mhm.
and they just send them to me, and I would just run the game with whoever was being sent my way.
Who's ever sent your way? It's like, pick 6, go.
Oh, they're sleeping. Don't worry, just do the 5. It's fine. Come on.
Right? Yeah, that guy fell asleep. All right, just don't
would-
put his screen up there.
It would be a massive team effort. Like,
Oh yeah.
No, no, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we
But-
know that we've seen it done with Castleton, and but like you said, everything is pre-recorded. Everything is clipped out, moved around, that kind of thing.
correct.
To do it live, just to me, just doesn't even seem. It seems feasible, but it seems very degraded.
Exactly.
I'll put it degraded, because that's the issue, is you're running into little things here and there that you're trying to figure out at the immediate moment. Yeah. So that was a good breakdown of what's going on over there. Now we're going to kind of pull the curtains back. This is what I love to do with Tavern Talks, is we like to find out the whys. We like to find out the ideas, the tips, the tricks, those types of fun things. So I ask all of my guests 3 questions to start off the game, because it's always fun. First one is how long have you been playing?
Off and on since 04.
Okay, not bad.
Started off playing 3.5.
Okay, yep, same. What sparked your interest?
To play?
Yeah.
I was on a school bus and a buddy said, "Hey, you want to come over to my house and play D&D?" And I said, "Sure." I ain't got nothing better to do. I'll just get off at your stop. So I got off at his stop. We went over and spent 5, 6, 7, 10 hours. I don't fucking know how long.
Yeah, well, when
playing
you're in high school, it
D&D.
didn't matter, right? Like, you're like, yeah.
It was a Friday. Like, I pulled out my flip Razor phone, and just texted my mom and said, "Hey, I'm over at so and so's house."
Right.
And she got mad at you for spending money on texts.
Yep. Because they weren't free back then.
No, I was on a prepaid. So it was, if I needed a $25 top up, they just topped it off, and it wasn't a big deal.
There you go.
All right.
Allowances were different back then. They actually got you something.
True. give kids now $5 and like, what am I gonna do with this? Like,
Get a Coke and
yeah.
half a cheeseburger.
Back in my day.
Except it's real.
Anyway.
Back in our day, it was worth
Anyway, make me feel old right now. Oh well.
$5. I'm right there with you. I'm in my 30s too. Like,
Yeah, I'm closer to 40s than I am my 30s.
I'm halfway. That's fine.
Yeah. So the question was kind of two-parted though. So how it happened is great, but what got this spark? Where did the spark come from? Like, you're like, I'm just gonna go to my buddy's house and play D&D, but when did it actually get exciting? And what made it exciting?
Well, that first campaign, I mean, wasn't even so much a campaign. It was just a little one. It was a little one-shot in a cave. I was this dumb half-orc who just went do-do-do-do-do. Literally,
And
he made that noise with a great axe on his shoulder, just do-do-do-do-do, right down the tunnel. Everyone else went to the sides. I went straight down the middle, and they just flanked. And they're like, "We're gonna use his dumb to get to win." So that was a blast. Don't get me wrong. But then the next campaign after that, I actually played because the guy was in his own homebrew world too. He connected my character to my previous character because I was playing the same build. I was still playing a barbarian. I only played it once, so I'm just like, fuck it, I'll just do the same thing.
Right.
And we built in to his lore how barbarians were actually literate. Half-orc barbarians were actually literate, as opposed to back then, barbarians were illiterate. They could not read or write. That was part of their class.
Right.
back in 3.5.
Yeah.
But we made it so that they were literate, and we explained why and all that kind of stuff. Um, because they were an old noble house that got dishonored or whatever, and it's a whole thing. But by doing that and tying the story together in that way, really started to pique my interest about, well, okay, lore, come on, bring it on, lore me. And I've been one of those people ever since.
So
Give me
homebrew
a
lore
good
is kind of
lore.
what pulled you to the game at the
Oh.
end, or to drive the
Mm-hmm.
excitement and the passion.
Oh, for sure, 1,000%. Which is why I now have lore every session is something's attached to something, and it's like, if you miss something, it might be important right now. It might not be important for 3 or 4 episodes, but it'll come back.
Yeah. So then the final question is, when did you say, all right, I played my barbarian.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to go behind the scenes. I'm going to pull my DM screen out, and I'm going to become the game master. He's going to show off his DM screen first.
No, when I bought this book,
Stargate.
the
Oh,
old Stargate
Oh.
SG-1 by AEG,
Uh-oh.
based off Spycraft.
Beaker's eyes just lit up. He's like, hold up.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know that was a game.
Uh-huh.
Ah.
Uh-huh. Bought that and started running it because I was already watching all of SG-1. Atlantis was just coming out. It was 07. So it was right in the thick of everything. And I said, all right, guys, we are just playing not these main groups, but everything that's happened in the show is canon, and we're just going to roll with it.
Ah.
And we went off there, and they fought and did a bunch, and I ended up getting 3 groups together, each with about 4 or 5 people, based off of in the beta site. So I didn't even have to deal with what was actually going on in Cheyenne Mountain. I said, you guys are in the beta site. You're not even on the in the main show. You're just this offshoot. You still have to deal with anything they do, but you're also your own entity. You're on your own base.
Basically, your B squad.
Yeah, you're entirely B squad. It doesn't matter what you do, but anything they do does matter.
So you were
But
taking the show, and anything the show did would automatically affect the game that weekend
correct
or week, and then
day. Because at this point, from 2007 until I think it was 2015, I went from playing a couple of times a week to playing every day.
Wow.
I was working 45 hours a week as a manager at Domino's, driving back to the campus after my shift, after I graduated, and said, all right, you, and you guys are here. Do you guys want to play? Because I had 3 groups. So I just was like, hey, who's free, who wants to play? And with Stargate, as Beaker well knows, I can pick any people I want because anyone can go on a mission if that's what they so choose to do that day. I just have to say the bosses tell you guys to go together. Who cares?
Yeah.
I don't care if you're beta 7. You guys are going together this time.
Nice.
And level disparity didn't matter because if one group was 3, one was 4, or one was 7, it didn't matter. I just had to balance the encounter or whatever, and most of Stargate is all talky talk anyway.
Yeah.
A lot of negotiation, a lot of don't shoot first, let them shoot first, and then kill them because your gun is going to fire faster than they will. During that same thing in 2014 or so, I actually had a 15-person table with 20 characters. I had some people from the past who had left and came back.
So they had their old character and their new character?
So they brought their old character and they had their new character.
Even better.
Uh-huh. And 15 people around an actual table at that point. And because I stand when I DM, my desk is actually a standing desk now. But back then, I put my computer over on a stand that had my notes on it, and then I just walked around the table. Because then if I needed to whisper in someone's ear because something was talking to just them, I could whisper in just their ear.
I miss that part of the table. Oh my
Uh-huh.
goodness, I love getting into people's faces and making whisper noises. Oh, makes
Let them
my
see that vein on your forehead that you can't see on camera.
oh you bad thing about being bald and extremely white. You
Hmm.
can see the vein even on camera half the time.
So, but all of that is just it's an art in itself.
It is.
I do miss actual in-person tables, but I actually really like that we're all virtual now. It's so much easier to schedule.
Man, I sway back and forth because I do a lot. I do a lot of convention games, and we just got back from a convention just what 2 weeks ago, Beaker.
Yeah.
Already, yeah, 2 weeks. Um, there's something about the table though. Like there is
There
something
is.
about sitting around the table
Hmm.
and having that person mere inches away from you and talking and telling you this story.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Being pulled away by the GM like that Friday night paranoia.
yeah.
Like that was good.
Yeah, if you've ever played Paranoia,
Mm-mm.
you need to try it just because of how you like to play games. It
Hmm.
sounds like it's completely
Like
social
dark.
deduction. Like, yeah,
Nice.
it's so the idea is that there is a deranged computer that has taken over the world, and it's
I'm
your
deranged. It's the
what's
computer, man.
yeah, okay, computer friend computer is and what is goes on is the only way to get what is it like loyalty with the computer is to
Hmm.
either prove that other people are traitors or do something that makes the computer happy, and then they level up by color. And yeah, it was we were like the highest level that you could be, and Beaker and I had never played before, and I had about I was about 1 hour before bedtime, so it was not good for my brain at all.
I
And
believe it.
all these people were writing notes to the game master. I'm like, what is going on? I'm so confused.
Yeah.
One thing I will do to keep some of that is if a player isn't doesn't want to know is not supposed to know the information, I'll be like, hey, GM, I need you to take your headset off. They're like, the fuck do you mean I didn't take my headset off?
Mm-hmm.
What are you saying? They just immediately go, what do you mean?
Yeah, I've seen that in a couple different live plays. I'll do it if there's certain languages that are being spoken. I'll do it if they're whispering. I also like to have a player GM screen that I can overlay to real fast and then mute everybody else so that they're even if they're talking, I can't. They're not going to show up on stream.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, those are fun. Dream sequences, things like that.
Oh, I love a good dream sequence.
Yeah.
I love a good dream sequence because it's a good way for like gods to interact or otherworldly beings or
Mm-hmm.
creatures, a patron for a warlock. Like there's a million and one
Oh yeah.
past lives. All kinds of things you can do with that.
So tell us a little bit about um, your world. So you've
Okay.
been working on this thing for how long?
So I first built started working on the map for Torsamil, which is the continent that the setting takes place in, the game takes place in. Back in April
Okay.
of last year.
So not very long.
No, but it took around 120 hours of map making on Incarnate to
Hmm.
get it and then the sub maps of just regions. Like, because I went down to 1 pixel
Okay.
and edited it the coastline pixel by pixel, the rivers pixel by pixel, made sure rivers did river things, and that like I even made sure rain shadows were attributed correctly, and if they weren't, I made sure there was a reason behind it, or that I knew that it wasn't that way, so that a player could come up with a reason behind it.
Got it.
Um, and like, why is there a floating only one Arcanotech city that's floating? Why is there only one giant floating rock? And it's like, well, and that evolved into the entire why is the calendar at 2025, and what happened at year 0 to reset the calendar. So it's all those questions about, well, why are these things this way, I answered as I was map making in my own head. But back in year 0, there were a set of set of meteors that came in and crashed into the planet on the continent, taking what was a regular plains,
Right.
maybe some woods in there, of course, and dropping it. 3 of them hit there, and 2 of them hit where the floating city is. One of them is what turned into the floating city, because it's like basic magnetism. When you flip a positive and a negative, it's going to repel. I just use the same logic on, well, what if the rock's core is magnetically opposite to the planetary core?
So once it broke off,
It just,
yep.
huh?
Nice.
It was, and they're trying to figure all of this out. And but how is why is Arcanotech only in this one city? And all of that, we've been answering those questions as we go along through the show. So.
And how many players are currently playing in that one?
The main podcast, our 16th, we're recording, is being introduced because one of our players had to step back for work purposes. So I brought someone else. I'm bringing someone else in to keep the groups at a decent size.
Yeah.
But they are recording with me on the 8th. But we record in advance, so those won't drop until like March, April, something like that.
Okay.
I think it's April, maybe even May, to be honest with you. Because I've got quite a bit of backstock. And so the main show has 16, and then I think I've got another 35 or 40, maybe even higher than that are already queued up and ready to go in different stream events that I have started to be concocted in at various stages of release.
Okay. So 30 to 40 people? Okay. Different people?
Yep. Different people, and I think I've got around 60 to 70 characters.
Okay.
Just played characters. NPCs not included. Several of them are gods. Like, gods are being cast.
Yeah. So what brought you to this idea?
So I never run one game, because that's not my style of world building. One game is in my opinion, it works, it's effective, but it doesn't fit my style because it feels very flat to me. Yes, you can build up where you're at, but you can't get as 3D of a world or realistic of a world with just the one perspective. So by having multiple groups, I gain that third perspective, so to speak, and you can see what's going on in this one city and then still hear about what's going on, and you can tell how fast word travels, and you can see a lot more of the dynamics, the culture, the society, just the world in general by seeing it from multiple angles. So I did that, and I usually settle around 3. 3 is usually that pretty solid number.
3 groups.
3 groups. I also have a very strict rule where I don't let people play in more than one main show, because that way you don't know the main story beat, and you can't metagame as easily. Unless you're playing the same character who just happens to be over in the same city as the other group is, then that's a different story.
Right.
But you cannot have you can't be in a main player in multiple groups.
Got you.
As different characters. Now, over on my Twitch side, I had a bunch of people who, when I was doing my casting call, who were like, I'm interested. I want to play but they weren't quite the right fit for the group I was working on, or they weren't. Something wasn't what was more of a live feel for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I stuck them over in the live stream chat, and I'm like, "Here you guys go. I'm gonna be working on some live streams as the game progresses. I don't know what they're gonna be yet, but I know I'm gonna have them." And now it's evolved into a whole thing that's nuts. It just kind of cascaded, and now you're getting to see the world from all different perspectives, all different
Right.
parts of the world. Because the continent of Torsamil is the size of Asia.
Okay.
To give you a scope of how just far across
Right.
the map is.
So, and it's interesting too that you say that because like so you got three groups at least going. Not there's more, but there's three main groups that are moving through this at the same time. Now, my question comes down to it is how much of an effect have some of these groups done to the others? Have you seen?
Well, one of them broke a moon. So
Yeah.
everyone could see that, and then see it get put back together after the equivalent of a jet flew straight up there. Um, um, beyond that, right now, the bigger things that's happened is um, what's happened in some of the live stuff has actually come into play. But like in one of the shows, they one of the players actually goes to talk to Orcus. Not kidding. He's on the material plane. He lives and breathes. He's just chilling there, being a demon daddy. They go visit him and say, "Why are you starting up your engines of war? Why are these volcanoes going again?"
Because Orcus said so.
And that was but it's because his son is a player on one of the other groups. So you got to see, or in the vignette, you got to see the truth of what happened and why the player left being in Orcus's camp. Orcus kicked him out. However, when you hear it from Orcus's side, he says no. It's actually that the character who helped save him took him from him. So you get to hear that little bit of I'm manipulating my ally into doing, well, my perceived buddy or could be buddy into being helpful to me. I might be able to get something from them. So let's see if I can get this back. So you get to see a bunch of that little. Right now it's just little stuff, but as we get closer towards the end, it's going to tie in way more. And then the finale is going to be nothing but this like mess of a weave of overlapping stuff.
Comes to the end and is kaboom.
Nice. Like we are, War Torn Knight, Matt, is actually going to be doing Battle of the Bards that's taking place in the Arcanotech city of Tauliva. And that is actually going to play into stuff that the other group is going to, the group that's in the city, that they're actually going to be able to experience and stuff like that. They might even be they even may be in the crowd watching the Battle of the Bards. I don't know exactly when that whole thing's happening yet. I haven't figured out the timeline in my head, but it's one of those fun things. And then in the vignettes really showed a really good thing, but two of the players wanted to be Plasmoid, and I said yes, but just the two of you. So I tied their entire backstory together, but they're in two different groups.
Okay.
So you get to see it kind of forming from the beginning, but you get to see it really start taking shape as this entire story unfolds and unfurls. And there's actually plans for one of the groups to go visit another one of the groups because they're like, okay, it's time for Orcus to die, so let's go talk to them and get Orcus's son to go help kill him.
Okay.
A little bit of spoiler territory for those of you who are out there watching, but it'll all be released at some point. It's fine. And I'm not telling you too much. I'm just telling you some of the large overviewing stuff.
Right.
Plus, Orcus has to die. That's just basics. Like, kill Orcus. Who doesn't?
I mean,
Those who ally with him, that's who.
yeah. I mean, I can't say much because right now in our Icewind Dale campaign, we're kind of in the same boat. We have two different clans of Goliath. Each one has their own goal, and they're all basing the fact that there is a story that was told many years ago of why they are no longer working together, but the stories are slightly different depending on the clan that you're talking to.
As they should.
And our players are starting to decide which clan to ally with and which clan to usurp, and it's an interesting thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the dragon ripped out of the ground, and that didn't help anything for Time Rush.
Does it ever?
Yeah.
Dragons tend to change timers.
I mean, this was the funny thing is like this was already explained at like episode 1 and 2, but they just said, let's just pass that.
Go this way.
Let's go this way. I'm like, all right, you go that way. Don't figure out what the Dorgar have been doing for the last 32 episodes.
7 day. I'm gonna start my 7-day counter.
I mean, it was like, and we were over at Gen Con's channel, and then all of a sudden it was like the last episode before we were having to move to my channel for the show, and I was like, you know what I'm gonna drop for the end? I said the Dorgar are finally gonna complete the dragon that they've been working on for the last 4.5 months.
You just let them.
Because nobody went after them. You found a Dorgar outpost. You killed one of the sons, and then you were found that there were other Dorgar outposts throughout Icewind Dale, and you said, let's go do this test instead. And then they never came back to it. And now they're finding what happens when that happens.
There's a group, the group that's in Taliba, in the ad that they did for the ad swap. The description for them is a group of four idiots who don't know what the hell is going on, because the entire thing is they never think they give me a full episode of content. They're like, it's only been half an hour, maybe 45 minutes. It's a 2-hour long recording session per episode, and they're like, it's only about 45 minutes, maybe. And I'm like, no, I got an hour and a half. It's fine. They're like, how? And I'm like, because the little jokes you say build the world, and world building is half of the fun of listening to the show.
Right.
Just because you're joking about robbing Fantasy Amazon doesn't mean that joke doesn't stay in there.
Yeah. Somebody did. Maybe you didn't do it, but somebody heard it and went, that's not a bad idea. Let's try that.
That's not the worst idea. Yeah, right? But their entire first main arc they chose to do was to participate in a heist, because their whole theory was everyone thought that they were going to rob to find a bomb in this company, but no one knew what the bomb did. No one knew what it looked like. They knew it was in a crate. They don't know what it is. They just heard that it might be a bomb. So they decided to go on a heist to steal it first, because if they have the bomb, then the gangs in the slums don't have the bomb.
But we don't know what the bomb does, and we don't know how we're going to keep the bomb, but we're going to take the bomb.
I don't know what's going on.
And they roped in a third party to come in and join them for the heist, and they're like, so what's the bomb? What's it do? I don't know. What's it look like? I don't know. Where is it? I don't know. So we're going to go on a heist in this tech company. We're going to go rob Fantasy Samsung without knowing what we're looking for.
Any idea what we're looking for?
None at all.
Perfect.
It's like, if anybody's ever watched
D&D 101.
If anybody's ever watched The Flash, there's, Captain Cold. How do you build a plan? Build a plan, you make the plan, you proceed with the plan, you know the plan's gonna fuck up, and then you make a new plan. Like, that's what's gonna happen. Like, what do you do at this point? You're like, ah.
And they went along with it, and they ended up finding out that it wasn't a bomb. Of course, because when the DM's very vague, it's not what everyone
Yeah.
thinks it is.
Yeah,
Because
where
it's
the plasmoids
third-party
came
intel.
From. Like,
It ended up being an EMP
well, I mean, it's
in
kind
a
of a
tech
bomb.
city.
Kind of a bomb. Like, I don't know about you,
Right.
but it's a bomb to me. Like,
Yeah. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but one of the players was. The funny part is one of the players was actually was a vampire who was sired by the current CEO, who was from another group, from one of the other player groups, and said, "Hey, is it okay if we go in and everyone's wanting to go steal this thing? Can we steal the thing? It's a race apparently to see who can steal it first." And he just came back and said, "Just don't lose." That was the CEO's response to a threat about the group wanting to go steal it. Was "Don't
you
lose."
better not let the other person win. That's all I'm asking. Like,
That's all I'm asking. That was it. And I just recorded the bit recently that's going to be tacked into the final half of that episode where she actually meets up with him to give him the device.
oh, there you go.
Because he has other uses for it.
Well, that's a good way for us
So-
to get to our ending portion of our show, which is called Happy Hour. And Happy Hour is this moment where the audience is actually able to ask questions. So anybody that's out there still listening, make sure you toss your questions in the chat room here on Twitch, and we'll answer those, either myself, Beaker, or Eric, either about maybe his world, maybe the characters that are in the world right now, maybe some ideas, tips, and tricks. And I'm going to kind of pass this over to Beaker, see if he has any questions.
Dude, I'm just in awe of how you're able to keep track of everything.
Without
Just
putting
that-
anything on paper?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh man, I don't even know how to process that. So what
Me neither.
with that? I mean, what struggles have you encountered in that whole process? Like, I know you say you have it great, and you're able to edit down and make everything that canon, no matter what, if you forget it or remember it or misremember or whatever it is. But where have you stumbled in that whole process?
The biggest stumbles have been, I think it would have to be the holidays were a big stumble for me because I took a break I wasn't intending to take because some actual real life stuff happened. My car got totaled and all that kind of stuff.
That's a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it set me back. It had me focus my brain on a separate task.
Mm-hmm.
So that divergent of I can handle so many divergences, yes, because I am neurodivergent in some capacity. Which one? I don't know yet. I'm not diagnosed. But I do know that by doing that and just taking my brain way so far off track that I had to deal with other stuff, it was hard to get back into the groove.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the hard part. Babysitting my kids, getting babysitting for them is a little tricky because I can only edit so often. I can only do it's mostly it's my own time management, not recording. It's all the not this stuff that detracts from this for me. It's the only reason I haven't been able to take notes is not because I can't. It's because I can't do it in life.
Yeah. So it's more extraneous events more than this, the actual game itself. No,
Correct.
It's understandable.
For
Man.
we have. I mean, you and I are both full-time parents, full-time, full work plus martial arts plus this. Yeah, I can understand. Life gets in the way real easy. So, but yeah, no, I'm impressed. The fact that you have been able to build this perspective world, multi-group world is and doing it as consistently you have is impressive alone. Um, the only few other people that I know that are doing it are doing this full time as like game masters on Start Playing Our Games and things like that. But to do it just out of the kindness of the love of the game and the kindness of your heart, I mean it's big, as Beaker would say. So Shadow's got a question. What is one nuance for world building that you learned that you would have benefited to know when you first started? It's a good question.
Don't overplan. Leave holes. Plan. Yes, if you want to build the whole map of the continent, do it. Great. I do it because it gives me my boundaries. It sets my rails as the DM. However, if you were to go on and look at my map is 85% incomplete. I've focused on the places that characters would talk about, or that, especially for the my group called the Raven Court, they are a bunch of they're all capped off at level 10, and they are leaders within the world who just get together and kind of like shadow puppet things. So each of them have their own regions, but the places they would talk about, they've developed and helped me build up those locations and those country. Even if it's just the country and all I've got is the country exists here, I don't know city names, I don't know any of that, but I that's why I'm like, it's overplanning. While it might be fun for you, the players find it harder to fit themselves into the story if they can't just say, I'm from Taco, and where's Taco? Right here on the map. There's a mountain nearby, and it's like, I don't have anywhere empty that has a mountain near. Shit! So
open up Incarnate, add mountain, boop.
Correct. Instead of having to do that and change your entire map and risk in continuity with physics or geology or whatever you might care about, just by doing less work, you have more fun.
So think big and let players fill in all the gaps.
Correct. Think big, don't fill in the minutia. Fill in the minutia for like starting towns, where major cities are. If they're going from A to B, know where A and B are. But don't dictate their route for them.
Right.
Make sure there's 6 ways to get there.
Yeah.
Even if one is go backwards and go around the entire globe the other way around. Like.
Yeah, I think that's good advice, like really good advice, because I know I've tried to do world building and I get bogged down in nitty gritty and I just stop. I'm like, no, I'm not doing this.
That's there's two different builds, and this is something I've learned for goodness, I've been playing this game now for over 20 years, and you get 2 ways of building a world. You're either going to go very small and slowly start to build outward, or you're going to go very big and think of the big things that you're dealing with, which is kind of what sounds like your type is. So you understand the continent, you understand the main cities, you understand how magic works, you understand how gods work, that kind of stuff. And then you allow the thing to kind of slowly build the minutia as you get down to a point where your players are actually in an area, and then you can say, okay, this is what we're going to focus on right now.
Correct.
So if you look at third edition is very well, is a lot of their first through third level campaigns were very small areas, kept in a very pocketed spot, and then they would give names just to kind of the 4 corners and go, okay, if you go past this is you. Like, you have to figure the rest out. That to me is exactly how opposite how you and I are playing when we're running my game with you. We are starting very small, and anything that has no idea, like anything after the 6 things I have put together for this little area is my players' decisions. I don't have anything planned at that point. And that's how, Beaker came up with an entire organization structure and everything in one night, because we were just like, okay, what were these questions?
That was fun.
It was. But yeah, these are very common ways of building characters and building worlds very easily, is letting your players build either the minutia going inward, and then they have those parameters, are the big parameters, or you put them in a very small location, and say anything past the forest is rumors and stories, and this is kind of how Lord of the Rings is built, right? Like the Shire is kind of what you start in, and you're like, okay, this is my nice little pocket, my pocket domain that I understand and have all the control under. And then as soon as I walk out that door, guess what? I don't know where I'm
It's the furthest
going.
away from home you've ever been.
Yep, that's right. Farthest away from home I've ever been. Walk through the farm.
Uh-huh. Part of why I like having the big map is because terrain.
Mm-hmm.
As a player, the players can build into their backstory. If they want to be from a desert tribe, they know where the desert is.
Right. Yeah, if you
And
have that mentality, and I know a lot of people just
no, they don't.
maps are difficult because things like you talked about where you took the time to actually put the physics behind it. So forests are places, terrain, or mountains are places, deserts are places, stuff like that. But understanding why is the big question.
Yep. Above what latitude is ice and so on and so forth.
Right. So I'm curious of something, and this is something that actually, and I know Beaker's gonna be like, I didn't even realize you paid attention to this. I did. Hold on. So we're driving up the page, right? And he goes, hey, let's listen to this book. He goes, it's kind of similar to how they described in so much detail the food in Game of Thrones. They describe the dinosaurs and how they move in Jurassic Park. What is something that you get excited about designing in your world?
Ooh.
I've been reading a lot of books right now, so I'm picking these points out.
For me, it's answers to the loopholes and problems that players send my way. They blow up the moon. Well, how do I play action that, or what physiological effect would that have if the moon stays broken?
Right.
How would one of the 6 moons being broken affect tides? It's the problem solving and the mental extrapolation that happens from player change.
Okay.
That's why there's no real way to break my world, because I don't know half of it yet.
Right, you're still trying to put those pieces together.
You don't know how to break it yet.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's society and technology and those types of things, and how those little bits and bobs of the world work and function together. What different cultures think about each other, what different countries that are neighboring think about each other, the politics, all of that really gets my brain whirring on a bunch of different angles. What if the people of Calderon don't send their fish south to Breachhold?
Ooh, economy.
Breachhold's got to, yeah, right? The economy, socio-political, all that stuff is really a lot of it, because that dictates the other minutia that the players would have without me having to plan the minutia, because they may not go to the bar, they may not go to the tavern, they may not eat in town. But if I can say they're passing a cart of fish, then they know fish is in that town, or then they might have some idea. And that's kind of the way I like to think things through, is start somewhere in the middle and work down and then up. And then also time through the 4th dimension. I love thinking through the 4th dimension, because a lot of my players have things that happened in the past, or they say something happened in the past 1600 years ago. And I'm like, well, how would that have evolved to a present problem now? Or would that problem have been solved? Or what changes would have happened just because they killed the king 1,000 years ago? How would killing a dragon 1,000 years ago have affected the modern day?
So on that same kind of thought process of, where you like to dig into, and it being, all of the loopholes, what's been the craziest or way out of left field one that's really maybe caught you off guard?
Not even in his vignette. One of my characters was in another character's vignette. and he rolled, I think it was a 30 on Arcana. And it was an Arcana, either Arcana or Religion, I cannot remember offhand. But he rolled really crazy high while meditating. So I had him astral project, and then he went through space and time and crossed the multiverse in someone else's vignette, plucked their soul out of their body as they were dying, and said, "Hey, come with me, you're dying anyway." And they made a warlock pact. All I did was I set the scene, and I did this. I just muted up and just let them role play and go. I asked for dice rolls. I'm like, okay, guys, we're not even an episode. We haven't even recorded our first episode, and the multiverse is already a thing.
Good job.
Fantastic. Love it. Fabulous. Beyond that, one of my characters just casually mentioned he killed Strahd, and he has Strahd's head on his desk, so Strahd is dead.
Well, that's a way to do it. Like,
How you make
you
a
know
name for
what?
yourself there? Ooh, is it really Strahd's head though?
We've actually said it a couple of times. It is, because in one of our first live streams, we did a Femstrahd variation. One of our players did that, and I'm like, okay, Strahd's already been canonicized as dead by this point. It was our first live stream. Strahd's already been said to be dead. How do we do this? And I said, all right, fine. In this area, it is thin on the space-time continuum and the multiverse, because the multiverse was already introduced. So I said, all right, bet, let's go. So I used his problem to solve my answer for another problem, and I just went, there you go. That's how this worked. And they killed the Femstrahd there. It was the one done by She is the Ancient. They used the She is the Ancient as the stat block for that Strahd. And yeah, it was.
Well, okay. It looks like we got another question from Shadow. You mentioned a floating mountain that exists due to opposing magnetism to the planet. How and where do you decide to explain something with science as opposed to magic? It's a good one.
Oh, that is a good one. Honestly, it's where it makes sense, really and truly. And just because I'm explaining it right now is only science does not mean that there are not magical elements involved in the reason why it's floating. Hybrid answers are not always wrong either, because they can start off as scientific exploration and then realize that's not all. There's more that lies beneath. Because science is an easy thing for people to get to. Magic is harder, unless they are magically attuned. If you don't have a wizard or a sorcerer in the party, it's harder to know magic and roll high on Arcana checks. I'm not saying it's impossible, it's just harder. You have to get an expert, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's a little more into it. But I use science where science makes sense, and I use magic where science doesn't make sense. If science cannot solve the problem, I use magic, typically. If magic doesn't entirely solve the problem, I use both.
Interesting.
So it's the rule of essentially magic is misunderstood science, or science yet to be understood in a way.
Well, no, because magic is there, and magic has its own set of rules. In my world, in my thinking, magic has its set of rules. It operates a certain way, but I use it to fill the holes where even the high-tech sci-fi science that we haven't yet to be discovered that could be seen as magic.
Gotcha. Okay.
Can like, if they can solve a problem, like I've got the space goblins, they're coming in and they're gonna have cryo chambers, they're gonna have they've got a full-on nautiloid vessel that they're running. Like, they've got all the things. They've got sci-fi. But where sci-fi can't even answer the problem, that's kind of where magic gets added in, because I'm a big sci-fi nerd, I'm a big fantasy nerd, so where sci-fi and fantasy don't answer each other, magic, it's just magic. Or it's both. High level science that no one knows, because no one from this planet knows that level science. But they think it's magic. It's a little bit of that answer, right? Where
Right.
because they have to figure that answer out before they can fully get to the nitty-gritty of it.
Gotcha.
So it's a puzzle, and that's the fun part. Is why is the city floating? The city's floating because we don't know.
Because I said so.
Uh-huh. It allows me to just come up with my answers on the spot and let them put the pieces together and be like, this is why it's floating.
Absolutely.
Player answers are another part of my another part of the world building process there.
Oh, definitely. Like I love to hear a player's answer and be like, "Yep, that's it, right there."
Yep. I love rewarding them for a good idea.
Absolutely. Not to mention if they make a better idea of why that trap worked the way it did, it's always the right answer.
Plus, they can then say they contributed.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think this has been a wonderful conversation of ideas and tricks and tips on how to make a multiplayer game. Like, really, this feels like an MMO at the level of D&D, which is great because it means that everything has a place, but also everything has the purpose of potentially affecting everyone else. And props to you once again for being able to do this all in your head. Been there, done that. Don't enjoy it in any way, shape, or form. Only thing realized
I
that
remember what I had for breakfast.
yeah,
Fun
I have
part
the
is
same
I record
thing.
Friday.
I have the same thing for breakfast every day, so it makes it easy. I can remember that. But yeah, no. This is awesome. Thank you very much for coming to hang out with us
Absolutely.
tonight. I hope you had a good time. Hope you enjoyed yourself. But yeah, do you have any questions for us before we call it the evening?
No, just did I answer your questions?
Oh yeah,
Like-
definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely got some good tips and tricks. One thing I've loved about this show for the last 3 years is that it's always a new tip. There's always a new trick to add to your arsenal. And everybody plays Dungeons and Dragons a little differently, which is great because it means that there's a table for everyone, right? So, Beaker, do you have any last words?
No, appreciate you coming on. This has been really good. He says he's got 3 years under his belt. I've only got a couple of months, so I'm learning a lot as I go along. So it's okay.
I bet. I bet there's a lot of talented people out there to learn from.
There are, very much so. And that's why we do this, because every week we get a new guest and they tell us something new, which is awesome. Anyway, thanks again, Eric, for coming on. Go check out Somebody's Heroes. I'm getting it right this time. Over on podcast, on Twitch. Go give them some likes and follows. Let them know that they're loved over there, as well as go check them out. See what this multiplayer thing is all about. It might be something that you're interested in, because some people really enjoy that type of table. I can't wait for another chance to play games. We'll be playing games later this year together, hopefully, as long as I can build a character and have time to sit down and create a backstory. I'll get there, I promise. Along with the other 1,000 projects that I have going on.
It's the name of the game, isn't it?
Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah. For those that are watching and are going to be watching here in the near future, don't forget, check out our social media right now. We have the casting call up for another week for the One Ring Moria show starting up in April. And we'll be doing, Beaker and I will be sitting down looking at all of the individuals that are interested and pick our crew and start our dive into the depths of Moria, which I can't wait. Playing in a very gritty game.
Yeah. More specifically, the casting call ends February 9th, so technically a week and a half.
Yeah. Well, we
Nice.
might have to end it earlier because my artist said she needs the artwork soon.
Oh,
So
yeah. Never
by
mind
the
what I just said. I don't know
yeah,
anything.
yeah, by the 9th, I'm hoping to have the picks. So, but keep sending them in. We've got 16 people so far, and we're happy to pick up. We also have other games going on later this year. Beaker's going to be running Power Rangers, and then we've got, based on people at conventions as well as other guests that have been on here, we've got multiple ideas for one shots and two shots and little mini series here and there coming into the fall and winter seasons. But yeah, let's see here. Next week, we get a new guest. Tomorrow, Beaker's on the line again. Are you painting this week again?
Yes.
Okay, we're painting Power
Hopefully.
Rangers.
Poorly painting.
But we're
Power
painting
Rangers.
poorly painting Power Rangers. But we're painting. And so if you are a painter or a miniature enthusiast, go check him out tomorrow at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we were off this Monday, but next Monday we'll return back to our every other week game in Icewind Dale for Dress to Quest, a fully cosplay-based live play that we've been running now for 35 episodes, and we'll continue to go through as the Charlatan Dragon continues to cause havoc in Tin Towns. Anyway, it's been a lot of fun. So everybody, raise your glass tonight. This is Last Call. Everybody, this is a wonderful episode of Tavern Talks. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you guys tomorrow.